It's a hard world to get a break in, and the good things have been taken. But girl, there are ways to make certain things paid. Oh, I'm dressed in these rags, I will sable someday. Hear what I say, I'm gonna ride the serpent. No more time spent sweating rent. Hear my command, I'm breaking loose. It ain't no use me down. Stick around, but baby, remember, it's my life and I'll do what I want. It's my life and I'll think what I want. Show me I'm wrong, have me some time, but someday you'll treat me real fine. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, citizens of planet Earth and beyond, stretching far into the galaxies, as far as the eye and the imagination can take it. Welcome to the Pork and Bean Show, starring Pork Cunningham and Frank Oliver Beans. We're going to introduce you to new thoughts, put questions in your head, and perhaps have you consider things you've never thought about before. Where the paranormal becomes the normal, where unreal becomes real, and where love is everything. Fasten your seatbelts and enjoy the ride.
Oh yeah? For me and the Lord, we got an understanding. We're on a mission from God.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Pork Cunningham. I'm here with my honorable, distinguished co-host, Frank Oliver Beans, and this is the Pork and Bean Show.
FOB for short, full of beans.
That's right. So how you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing good. You want to hear any kids jokes, or do you want to do something else?
Whatever you want. Go with what you feel. Go with
Okay,
your heart.
I got a good one for you. This is a really good one. What did the left eye say to the right eye?
You got me. I'm stumped.
Said something between us smells. Between us, something smells. That's
Yeah.
A good joke, man.
No, not bad. You got any more?
Yeah, sure. This is a scary one. What happens when you what do you get when you cross a vampire with a snowman? This is a good one.
Okay, go ahead.
Frostbite. Is that vampire and snowman?
I got it. All righty. Well, so what's new with you? Anything new since last time we talked?
Well, we've been struggling with our introduction, but we've got a really good show. That's really new. I mean, this is going to be an amazing show. Peter's got a lot to say, and you had a lot of interesting things. You didn't get much sleep last night, so you're going to talk about that.
I didn't get any sleep last night. Not a wink.
I know.
Not a wink. I was.
But it was a good outcome, right? It was a good thing.
I would say it was well worth it. I'd say it was well worth it. Yeah.
Did
So,
the UFOs come?
I don't know, man. It was like something out of this world. I'll tell you, it was something out of this world. But we'll leave it for when the interview starts. Our guest today is Peter John Graham from Down Under, and I'm really looking forward to it, to the interview. And anyway, if you don't have anything else to say, let's do our feature, which is the Pork and Beans mailbag, sent in from all our
Pork and Beans mailbag. Does it have any kids' jokes in it?
No, it's just our many fans, our multitude of fans, our legion of fans. I would say it's a legion now. I'm not sure exactly how many people you have to have a legion, but I think we're approaching that.
Is it more than a collegian or less than a collegian?
I think a collegian's a little bigger. We're not quite that big yet. We've probably got, I don't know, maybe in the 100,000 fans right now. I think a collegian would be like.
A collegian is a white collar legion.
Oh.
You know. Oh. Most legions are kind of riffraff, but if you're a collegian, then that means you got a degree, and you know.
Oh, so it's
blue collar.
I got you.
I mean, you're a white collar.
Okay. So anyway, here's the mailbag, the Pork and Beans mailbag segment, and let's have a look.
Oh, I know it's a time for the pork and the bean, the mailbag. I select the one around the letter from a one lucky fan. To answer the questions you need to know, you want to know. Thank you very much. For the pork and the bean show, we'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel. We got the blues on the run. Sing, boom, to barrel, ring out the song of the chief. Oh, now it's time to run the barrel for the gangs on him.
Okay, this is from Ben Benjamin from, where's he from? His writing is really bad. From Cleveland, Ohio. And Ben, this is actually, I guess, you know, it seems to me from what I've been seeing in these fan letters that a lot of people want to talk to Frank Oliver Beans. Or maybe it's just coincidence. But anyway.
What's the guy's name again? He's Toledo, Ohio. His name's what?
He's from Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Benny Benjamin.
Benny Benjamin.
Benny wants to know, hey, Frank, what is if you're cooking for yourself tonight and anything goes, what's going to be your ultimate meal? What are you going to make for yourself?
Oh, I can tell you exactly what I make. I'm sort of making for myself every night. I make potatoes and chili with beans.
Oh.
Sometimes, well, it's actually pork and beans, but it's chili with beans and potatoes, and it's like a little nice stew.
Yeah, my signature recipe is humble pie.
Oh.
Humble pie, yeah.
Well, anyway, let's get this thing off.
Okay, so anyway, Ben Benjamin, thank you for your letter. All our fans, many fans out there, our collegion of fans, keep the letters coming. We love you all. And like I said, today's guest is Peter John Graham from Down Under. I'm really looking forward to this interview, like I said. And without further ado, let's bring Peter on. Okay, we're live. You know what's pissing me off?
Well,
everything, yeah. Everything these days. Except for after last night, I don't think I'll be pissed off too much anymore for a while anyway.
No, I don't think so either. You're in the club now, mate.
I want to say something. I'm pissed off with you two. Because my hair is the longest I've ever had it. and you guys like blow me away.
Yeah, well,
And I don't even dye mine.
my hair actually goes outside. It goes outside the camera.
You know what I want you to do? I want you to, you see how your hair is on your picture? I want you to tie it to each wall so that when you're talking, the hair is like, like that. It's,
Put a little string
yeah,
out there.
yeah, like straight out. Like, so tie something on one end and on the other end and have it straight out. Yeah.
I want to look like one of these Japanese demons. They always have their hair up like this.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, and I have a little ponytail it up.
Yeah. Well, I just got my hair long enough. I will while it back to put it in a ponytail. So anyway,
just cut mine.
okay. Anyway, let's hear. Tell us a little bit about our guest there, Mr.
FOB.
Beans.
FOB is full of beans. FOB. That's what the whole thing. Frank Oliver is full of beans, right? FOB. Oh,
Yeah.
he's full of beans. It's
Well,
like LOL means laugh out loud.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, hey,
Well,
you gotta.
Anyway, Peter comes from the land down under. The people refer to as Australia. I'm not really sure what the Aborigines call it. They don't call it Turtle Island. What do the Aborigines call it, Peter?
I have no idea. I think at the moment they're trying to figure out what to call it because they've been colonialized for so long that they're not even sure that it's their own country anymore, you know. They're trying to get that point across to people, but no one seems to be listening apart from their own tribes. So, you know, for the Aboriginal or for the Indigenous that still know their history, you know, for them it's the land of Dreamtime still, you know. I don't think they even distinguish it so much between being material and still being multi-dimensional, you know. It's only for those that are, you know, for their children that have been stolen and corrupted that have, you know, been pulled into the illusion of it being Australia. And I saw this fellow the other night doing a comics skit, you know, and after England got a hold of the place, we got 6 states in Australia, and so we've got okay, so the Queen's come in, and we'll name the first 3 states, which is Queensland and New South Wales. Originally, Queensland and New South Wales were all one state, and they were called Van Diemen's Land, actually. And then they split up into 2 states of Queensland and New South Wales. And then further down, Victoria. So there's your 3 English names, and they've just said, "Oh, okay, Australia, you can name the rest of them." And we, you know, with all our great logic and, you know, great thought, we go, "Oh yeah, okay, well, we'll call the other South Australia, Northern Territory, and Western Australia," you know, sort of thing. So, you know, the monarchy had put all this great thought in putting their stamp on the country, and the Aussies have gone, "Yeah, well, that's north, that's south, and that's west. That'll do us, mate. You know, whatever, call it what you freaking like, you know." And so I thought that was quite good, and it's pretty much.
I wanted to today. I think is like really pretty amazing because Brian was awake all last night.
You mean Port Cunningham?
Port Cunningham, Brian Bland,
PC.
alias Brian Bland. Port Cunningham was awake all last night, having a mystical experience. And at the same time, Peter Graham was having some kind of connection with Port Cunningham. This is awkward as hell, you know, calling you Port Cunningham.
PC.
that means your spiritual experience is going to be forever tainted with Port Cunningham fraud.
Well, okay, I'll tell you what. My alias Brian Bland had the experience.
Oh, the alias. Okay, that's good. Alias. So the alias, Pork Cunningham's alias, alter ego, Brian Bland had an experience last night of God consciousness, unity, and all that, and that was an echo of what do you call it? Of Sam Chandler's talk about his heart opening up and his teacher coming inside and being filled with bliss, and then Peter Graham also had, when we had Kevin Royce, that was his name, right? Kevin Royce was on.
Yeah.
Peter was having psychic contact with Sasquatch during that whole thing. They were telling them stuff about what's going on and where they're from and all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole synchronicity thing here. And then on top of that, there was, what did you say? There was Christina. Christina had something to do with this?
Well, I did a session with Christina Schwind, who probably has to be the most, she's most connected woman I probably ever met. She's just unbelievable. She's unbelievable. You know, my girlfriend Sue's got the best heart, so I got to mention her. But as far as spirit connected and doing her work and whatever, like what she's here to do or whatever, Christina is right up there with the best I've ever seen. So yeah, and she told me I had a private session with her. Like, she has by the way, anybody who wants to get a hold of her, she's wow, she's the real deal. So, but she told me I had a private session with her. She has these dream pod things too, right, that she does. But I didn't know if I had the time to do it, and I just got to think about it, kind of thing. So I just had a private session with her, right? And she cleared out a bunch of stuff, and I noticed stuff right away. Like, right as she was doing it, she was taking like past life traumas out and attachments, that kind of thing. But she said there's a major piece coming for you.
Oh, cool.
And
so this was predicted.
Yeah, she said there's a major piece going to drop in for you, and that's when I was experiencing this last night. That's what I thought. Well, okay, here it is. Here's this major piece, because it was like the Love Zap part 2, except even more profound. But let's back up a little bit, because I want to hear what Peter said about Kevin Royce and about the Sasquatch stuff. So let's get into that, because that kind of comes first. Then I'll tell you what I experienced.
Yeah, but go ahead, Peter.
Okay, well, Michael sent me the video that you did with Kevin, and I was sitting there watching.
I'm sorry to hear that. How did you get through it?
Oh, well, actually, I thought it was really good. I like what Kevin had to say. I thought he was very genuine, and I didn't have, any misgivings about anything that he had to say. Not that I'm an expert or an authority on any of these things, but I was taking it all in, and open-mindedly, as I do with most things, and certain subjects were touched on, and then Sasquatch started communicating with me, and I would say it would be Sasquatch from around not far from here, where I know that they are, around the Kilcoy area and whatnot, which is only, probably about 100 kilometres from here, not even that. And I know
have you ever connected with them before?
No, I haven't actually. I'd say they'd be aware of me, because I've stomped all over their land all my life. I've been running up and down their mountains and and traversing through their gorges, and you know, I'd spent my whole life growing up.
Mhm.
Of course, when I was younger and when I was in those areas, Sasquatch wasn't really, you know, forward in my mind at
Okay.
all. But
I just, yeah,
I'd say they were aware of me, but I was
absolutely.
conscious of them, you know.
Well,
Um,
there's a very strong point here, and I obviously want you to go on with your story, but very strong point is the fact that it just shows you that the Sasquatch all over the world are telepathically connected with each other, because, you know, my guys must, you know, and they all know about us, right? So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, with the three-way connection with you, Kevin, and myself, which I guess you're going to speak of now, it just really speaks of what I've always said, that they, you know, like I've always said, if one clan knows you, they all know you. Doesn't necessarily
yeah,
mean they're gonna like you, because they're all like they live as like people too. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna like you, but they will all know you. And so that what you just said is absolutely speaks to that, like, without a question. So okay, so what
yeah,
happened?
yeah.
Important
Well,
point.
you know, I'm just assuming that it may have come from a local area, but you know, my ability to speak with sentient beings and multi-dimensional beings, you know, isn't restricted to a narrow bandwidth. So
No.
I could have been connecting from Sasquatch from your area or anywhere in the world, you know.
Oh, so you're not
Uh,
sure?
yeah, well, I wasn't made aware of it.
Oh, okay.
They never said anything to actually say where they were from, specifically on this rock. So, but they were just telling me about, because it was coming up in my mind, because I do, you know, I do take notice of things that come up about Sasquatch online and whatnot, and I've seen the pictures offered up by yourself and people on your site, and also other clips that I've seen on Facebook and whatnot, like everybody else. And I noticed that, you know, they were making these little houses, you know, like lean-tos against trees and whatnot,
Yeah.
and and from me looking at them, and I've got a good knowledge of the bush and how to survive in the bush, and about making your own, you know, semi-permanent dwellings and permanent dwellings and whatnot. And so from what I see of them, you know, to me, they're, you know, they don't smack of anything that is really practical. They're more symbolic than anything. And it also reminded me there's a fella on the island here. He's been estranged from his country apparently, but he's been building these little lean-tos all around the beach down in Woody Bay on the south end of the island. And he just grabs all the driftwood and, you know, and he'll make up these little teepee things or whatnot. And a lot of them are just something you can put towards the western sun and keep the sun off your back while you sit on the beach for the day. But he had the island dumbfounded for about 6 months. These things were popping up all over the beach. And everybody's going, well, who's doing this, you know? And eventually he got wind of it and said something to the paper about it. And he said, well, I've been making these. And, you know, and people would go, well, you know, because most people just don't do that, you know. They take their umbrella or their little pop-up beach tent with them or whatever, you know. And I say, well, why do you do it? And he says, well, because they remind me of home. And I think he might have been from somewhere like Zimbabwe or something like that. And he was sort of either here because he had to be, but obviously he missed home. But making these dwellings was a reminder of a practice that they would do in his own homeland. So, and they were virtually just symbolic, you know, and it was a way for him to, you know, connect and remember his homeland while he's estranged from there. And the Sasquatch were telling me, because they know this is in my memory, they know this is part of my knowledge. And they were pointing out to me that this is the same for us. This is why we build them, because it reminds us of our home, you know. So when they do that, that's just their way of you know, feeling nostalgic and homesick, and they build those shelters to, you know, just to be able to symbolize that for themselves, and to be able to remember home. And because they're building like a home.
I think there's other reasons they do it too. There's other reasons they do them too, but that certainly makes sense. But I also wanted to point out just one thing in relation to that is, like, with the ones I find, like I have seen some that people have done, so people do them, you know. But you know, a lot of the ones I find Sasquatch do, and it's not just like I go and look at a structure and I say, oh, you know, I see structures there, and I'll see footprints there, I'll see glyphs there and glyphs I know, you know, like glyphs I know real well, so I know them better than structures or whatever. But you know, I'll see footprints there, I'll see glyphs there, I'll see them there sometimes, I'll feel them there. There's just like a lot of collaborative evidence that they are involved, and then it's just some certain particular things that they do that people wouldn't do, like putting little fern fawns on top, little decorative things like that make no sense, but just that I consistently see. So, but yeah, you're right. People do them too, but Sasquatch definitely do them.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just saying in relation to, you know, this fella who was doing it on the island. You know, the emotional reason, the emotion behind, you know, the intent to feel the need to build these structures comes from a feeling, you know. And for them, you know, it's that love and that homesickness and whatnot. And then they were extending to me about how, you know, them being on Earth here isn't really, it's not really their choice. They're here because, you know, they've been sort of, you know, their plight is much the same as ours. You know, their struggle is our struggle, you know, on this planet. And they're not really here so much to help us. We have to, you know, we've got to get through our own struggle. But they're still a very loving race of beings, as humans can be. And they share that with us, you know, they know that about us. And they try to, as much as they can, you know, help humanity to understand that, you know, that they are just like we are, and you know, they're capable of the deepest love and empathy and care for their civilization and for their tribes and for themselves as individuals. So they're sort of getting that across. And I mentioned something about the X's that they often leave too, you know, where they'll leave a couple of trees, you know, push a couple of trees over and make an X shape and things like that. And that is their way of letting us know that their struggle is the same as our struggle, that the forces of entities unknown to us, multi-dimensional beings and whatnot, are affecting their way of life just the same as it affects ours. And by them putting those cross symbols in, that's sort of like, you know, anywhere from Jesus Christ on the cross to the swastika, you know, they're trying to symbolize that sort of thing of that that negative and that horrible energy and that evil energy that comes in, and that's what they're symbolizing when they're doing those in the forest. And well, that's the message I was getting anyway. So
they're all personal, because that's not what I get. That's not my message, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not yours. It's all it's telepathic and it's personal. X to me means friendship, welcome. That's the agreement between us. And I've actually come up with like some of them that I saw over and over and over again, but I just never put together what it meant, or I never thought about it. And then I said, okay, it means this. Then the next day they started making glyphs with that meaning, even weaving them into what symbols I already knew the meaning of, and making sense in context to the entire message. And then I would look back 5 years from before, when I didn't even know any of the stuff, and I saw that they were doing the same thing, and it was just like, okay, well, they already knew I was going to come to that realization. So, the time thing and all that stuff. So, yeah, there is no set meaning for them. There really isn't.
Yeah, no, well, it still ties in, you seeing it as a sign of welcome, and like I say, it was expressed to me about how I described it, but that's still for them. That's their way of saying, once again, look, we have a shared experience that we're having here, and that's still a welcome type thing, and as humans, we often, when we're trying to get to know people, and especially if we're getting to know strangers and that, we all tend to look for common ground, for shared ground, things that we can agree on, or experiences that we've shared together that help us bond and get us away from feeling like strangers, and start getting us to feel more like having that common ground. So it all ties in its own one.
The other
Didn't you have an experience where you were talking about, and then this ties into Peter too, where you said that your heart expanded and you felt all the pain of people, and that pain was also love. And that's kind of like what he's saying. There's this pain that's also love. So you're saying, well, okay, the structure means love and welcome, and he's saying that it means shared struggle and shared pain. So what I'm saying is there's a connection there. Also, I wanted to ask Peter if he could tell his story about what he was doing to he was thinking about you last night, because he knew that he was going to be on the show today, and he was thinking about you last night. You want to tell that story?
Can I just quickly say something about the structures and that stuff first, because it came to mind. The other reason they make those structures close into people and whatever is they're trying to reach out in a non-threatening way. Hi, I'm here. Do you notice me, kind of thing. And the reason I know that is because quite often you'll see these fire pits made of rocks in a circle, and they'll have like little twisted twigs and stuff in there to simulate fire. And it's right where people are having their fires and where they're camping. So they're kind of like reaching out. And I mean, and I know for sure, because there was a place that I used to camp way out in the bush, and like 5 or 6 kilometers in, and we saw a fire pit there, the same thing, on the trail. And as I looked on the trail, I could see a clear vision to exactly where I have my fire when I'm camping there. So it's also imitation and reaching out and hi, do you notice me, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, they do have to be somewhat clandestine, and
of course,
and some of that's for their own safety, and some of that's also causal by the people that do manipulate them while they're here.
Right.
beyond their own will. And, but, on that point, actually, and I've seen and I've heard the stories about how they can be here one minute and gone the next, or just seem to start running and disappear type thing. And I know there's a lot of people on this planet who are just going to go, well, you guys are fucking nuts, you just off with the pixies, And
yeah, I've seen that.
And I can tell, I'll tell the whole world here right now, and I can back it up with my wife as a witness, that I've seen my wife do it, and through great emotion to save one of our children, who was definitely heading from a great height, head first on towards the concrete, and I seen her move a great distance that it wouldn't have been possible for her, for any normal human being to move that distance and catch him while she had another child in her right arm, so she had like about 20 kilos on her hip in her right arm, and she's moved something like about 8 meters in like a millionth of a second. And then she was standing there holding my other child who'd fallen off the stairs, was heading head first for the concrete. And he was sort of threaded through her left arm with his legs dangling out one side and his head out the other. But there was no sound of footsteps. We were on concrete, which had dirt on it. And she was wearing flip-flops, as you call them in America. We call them thongs over here in Australia. And actually,
that's the thing that Mike wears at night, a thong.
Yeah, on your feet, mate. Yeah.
No, around his private parts. A thong. No, private parts. A thong. You never heard that one, Mike? A thong.
It just it's interesting that you would that would come to your mind.
It's not interesting. It's actually quite disturbing that it came to my mind. It's not something that I really want to visualize.
I'm disturbed when another man imagines me with a thong on.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of creepy.
I'm going to have no problem getting that out of my head.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I edit that part out. I don't think Mike has, but Peter, all those attributes and those special abilities that they say they have, I probably witnessed a lot of it, and they've got more. I mean, probably just scratching the surface. I mean, I've seen them materialize right out of thin air, seen them materialize out of a cloud of smoke. My girlfriend's seen them running by, or something running by, and a memory, like a memory of it,
That's how I saw my wife when she was moving to catch my son. That's all I saw was this like blur when you do a slow motion frame, and you get that after blur. Is she was moving just before like the speed of light. If she'd have been moving any faster, I wouldn't have seen her move at all. Her arms didn't move, her legs didn't move. It was like she was on this 1,000-mile-an-hour conveyor belt. 1 minute she was standing next to me, not 1 minute, one fraction of a second.
Yeah.
I actually saw my son heading for a dive first, and me being a useless bastard, I've just frozen. I'm just standing there waiting for the aftermath, because I'm standing there and I'm looking at the kid, and my logic is saying there's no way I'm catching him before he hits the deck, and I didn't even have time to even think of what the aftermath was going to be. I'm pretty sure it was going to be a broken neck though. And my wife looked at me, seeing the look on my face, and then she looked back to what I was seeing, and then she was gone from next to me You know,
She had time to do all that and still get them?
exactly. She looked at me, saw where I was looking, turned
Wow.
and looked, seen what I was seeing, and then she was there, hold me. And then I wandered over to help, you know, get him out from under her arm and ride him up. And there was actually, we were standing in a circle under a house. There was probably about 5 or 6 people. We were all standing in a circle having a conversation. And there was probably 3 other people there who could have witnessed it, who saw nothing. It was like it was, you know, it all happened in another dimension. They had no idea what was going on at all.
Well, there had to be maybe some time manipulation there. Time was slowed down a little bit or something, you know?
I think it was all to do with emotion. It was Kerry's emotion that caused her to be, for that fraction of a moment, a multi-dimensional being, you know?
Well, I think that the Sasquatch, when they were giving me hints about what it means to go invisible, and they said you got to really want it. And what that means to me, you know, is that really want it means the kind of want that your wife, Carrie Ann, had at that moment. Was her whole being wanted it at that moment. Her whole being just moved as one, and which is a tremendous emotional response. And I think that's how there's some kind of connection to where they go invisible. They can go invisible in any kind of ways, but it has to do with them wanting it. You know, this thing
and there's
about
got to be like a genuine need for it too. It's not got to be just
Right.
like a frivolous, I would like, that would be fun.
Right.
It's got to be a real heartfelt want, you know?
I agree, because you think about the Sasquatch, they are famous for hiding behind trees, hiding behind bushes, and their whole life depends on them being invisible and being not seen. It is like, for them, it is a major part of their reality of not being seen, so they can hunt, and so they can avoid predators, avoid humans, and so it's just part of their reality to really want to not be seen, you know, because it's life or death for them, you know.
Yeah,
because
that's why it's a fight or flight type thing. It's a necessity. It's not just, you know,
and
fun
high
and
emotion,
games.
some kind of a high, powerful emotion.
Yes, yes.
You were saying, you know, people. The thing about Sasquatch is they teach you about yourself and our true nature, right? So I don't know if anybody's really interested, if they really want to have interest in Sasquatch. I mean, if you're just going out there looking at them as monkeys running around in the woods or something, you're really not going to. They're not going to give you any information, and you're not really going to learn anything from them, kind of. So you're really selling yourself short. But I guess it's not for everybody. But that's really what they're all about.
Yeah, I don't see them like that at all. You know, even though, like I say, I'm by far, you know, no great, you know, person of knowledge on Sasquatch, but I can see enough, and I've seen enough over the years, you know, and I've had quite a few of those years to know that they're not just some wild monkey running around, you know. I've seen enough, and I've heard enough, and I've had enough of my own experiences to know that you know, that they are, you know, they are worthy and you know, and deserving of every good thing that comes to them, you know. Just it's like the rest of us, you know.
Well, we're the wild monkeys in relation, in comparison, my opinion.
Well, I think well, I think that could be said about, you know, some of the some of the ways some people carry on. But a lot of us are just in the dark. We've, you know, this planet has been such that, you know, the knowledge that Sasquatch have, they've kept their knowledge, you know, that hasn't been withheld from them. But humans, our history, our knowledge gets destroyed generation after generation. And we all have these abilities. My wife is living proof of that. She has those abilities, you know. She did it right in front of me, you know. So, you know, we're all capable of that. But all these things that we're capable of, generation after generation, this knowledge gets withheld from us, and it gets, you know, kept by the few who want to control and be the 1%ers or the 3%ers or whatever, and anything that's, you know, that can't be hidden, they destroy it. They level it to the ground so that, you know, we can't even do archaeology on it to try and discover, you know, what it was before we were here. And
that's going on today.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that going on today? We're trying to destroy our history right now.
Yeah, it's going on in America now. They're pulling down all the statues, you know.
Well, whether you know, I really don't want to get into that, because that's actually that's actually part of my story. But I really don't want to get into that. But I will say that, you know, if you you know, like Winston Churchill says, a nation without that forgets its history has no future. So that's kind of the way I think. You've got to learn from your history, even if it's bad.
Yeah, that's
right. I mean, if you don't learn from a bad history, then how are you going to know? You know, you got to. I mean, in theory, if we don't want to repeat it, we have to be aware of it, right?
That's right. You know, we have.
I mean,
you know, history and even our own lives. You know, we've all at some point experienced trauma. But, you know, the correct way, or maybe correct is not the word, but a healthy way of dealing with your trauma is not by reliving the trauma every day, but by looking at your trauma and looking at all the knowledge and the information that permeates around that experience, and retain that knowledge so that, you know, you don't fall into that trauma once again. You don't have to relive the trauma exactly as you see it, like having a flashback or a nightmare, in order to learn from that trauma. You know, like we live from moment to moment. Your trauma, you know, 5 seconds after the trauma's happened, it's history, and it's no longer your reality. But there's still that resonance of the information, of knowledge that surrounded that trauma that, you know, echoes through eternity, you know, and can still be retained by you, stored in the cloud, in your own cloud. And like you say, when you remember those parts of it, then that is what, you know, stops you from falling in to the same problems again, if they can be avoided, or to help you be better equipped if you get blindsided by that situation again. That knowledge can help better equip you to deal with the situation at that time, and maybe, you know, lessen the trauma, or even avoid the traumatic event altogether, you know. So, and this is a powerful lesson, because so many people, you know, their way of, you know, and it's natural that when traumatic things happen, that we want to remember it. so that we don't get hurt by it again or whatever, or so that we can have the ability to see trouble coming. And but what we do is we just have this visualization, this memory of the trauma, and then we get triggered by that, and it's like we keep reliving it all over and over again. And we never get trained, we never get taught by our parents, we don't get taught by our teachers, we don't have senseis or masters. Some people are lucky enough to do so. They might come to a person like myself or like Michael, like Mr. Beans, and they may learn of this, of how to just retain the knowledge that surrounds the wound, rather than reopening the wound every time for the sake of, self-preservation or whatever. But anyway, we digress.
No,
and,
absolutely. And even on a more rudimentary level, I mean, what you said is absolutely true. And you guys do great work in that language lessons of the heart. We'll have to do a show just on that sometime. But I mean, just on history alone. I mean, if we don't remember who Hitler was, completely erase him from history, then, if we're intelligent enough to learn from that, then hopefully we won't make the same mistake. But, it doesn't look like we are learning. But you still have to have that history there, whether it's good or bad, in my opinion, because it's valuable to remember that and say, wait a minute, this is what happened. We don't want to do that again or something. But
well, it's part of the human experience. We've got Earth is not the only place where we have wars and bad things happen. This happens in all dimensions and in the heavens itself. And when you get people that want to carry on like this, like the Bible or different religions talk about wars in heaven and Satan or his evil band of angels, get cast out of heaven and they're cast down to earth. And we in ourselves, for a lot of part, still have a lot of corruption within us. And even if we're not born with corruption, we're born with this type of mentality where we are corruptible. And there's no real place in heaven for that, so we go through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, maybe here on Earth or on other planets and in other dimensions, so that we can, learn to drop that corruption, to learn so, we can feel the sting of death. We can feel the pain of death and the trauma and make our own decisions as to whether we want to hold on to this corruption, and we can see and we can feel where this corruption comes from, and we can learn where we've been, deceived and where we've allowed this corruption to come into us. At one point, we may have all been perfectly incorruptible and got corrupted. And maybe some of us were totally corrupted and have worked our way up into dropping that corruption. There's both sides of the coin. I know myself personally, I didn't manifest as some perfect being. I was the worst of the worst. You think of the ugliest person, like emotionally, spiritually, whatever that you can think of. And that was me. That's how I started out, And I remember those lifetimes, and I remember what I did. I remember what was done to me because of the atrocities that I carried out,
You're talking about your progression over lifetimes, your soul progression, and your.
That's
wow,
right.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to hear more of that. But anyway, Mike was talking about something about you were focusing your energy on me last night, and then I had an experience. So tell us about that.
We'll get back to that. Well, basically,
and we don't want Mike, and we're not going to let Mr. Beans talk. That's what I'm trying to do.
Hey, Brian, go to the top when Peter starts to talk. Click on speaker view. That way, his image goes over the whole screen when he starts to talk.
Where do I do that? On the little
top right hand corner.
Oh, I get you. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Hey, we're learning stuff
the
here.
whole screen, see?
Okay,
Instead
so
of-
okay.
instead of our guest having to, be in the peanut gallery with the rest of us.
Okay, well there you are. I can see you.
It kind of highlights him.
You know what though? All I can see is which isn't good.
Well, let Peter start talking, and then it should be all right.
Okay, say something, Peter.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll get back to it, and so what was happening was because I haven't actually interacted or heard from you for a while, Mr. Cunningham, and I was taking in, the interactions that we have had, and how I know you, and the type of personality and the being that you are, and I thought to myself, yeah, okay, well, you were in my spotlight. I thought, well, okay, well, hey, my friends should be your friends, because I don't see any reason why not. And they already know you anyway, whether you're aware of them or not. And
well, hang on a second. What friends you're talking about? Let's clarify so that
well,
I mean your spiritual guides and stuff, or your guides and your angels and people like that.
Yeah, guides, angels, God, Jesus, Michael, Gabriel, Thor. He's become a pretty good friend of mine recently.
Does he have the big Does he have the big hammer and the shield and all that? Actually.
Well, he probably does, but he doesn't really wave that around when I'm with him because it's not really necessary. I'm not his enemy, I'm his friend, so he can put his hammer down when we get together. We go do, better things like rock climbing and mountain climbing and things like that. Go trekking around and whatnot. So
I got a question from Michael quickly. Why don't I go big screen when I talk? Say something, Mike. Say something, Mr. Beans.
I see him fine. He goes, "You're big screen now, right?" It's what I see. You're big screen now.
Oh.
And when he talks, he's big screen. So forget about it. It's working.
Okay. I didn't see me go big screen. I just saw you guys go big screen, and everybody wants to see me big screen.
Yeah, but on the recording it will, because you're big screen now.
I mean, hey.
But you can keep interrupting all you want. It's your show.
Well, hey, no, it isn't. It's our show. I mean, you're the astute and honorable Frank Oliver Beans. So anyway, go ahead there, Peter.
Right, and we've invited Peter here because he has some amazing experiences with angels and all kind of beings, and
absolutely,
and we need to hear that. So it's his part of the show.
Yeah. So anyway, Peter, but you're talking about this experience. So tell me. So you said that they all know me. I mean, but is that just a generic comment because they know everybody, or they were specifically connecting with you about myself? How does that work?
Well, they know you because you know, they put that in my heart, you know, and they say to me, they say, well, you know, they say to me, well, you know, because I'm aware of you, they're aware of you, you know, and
Okay.
then their reply to me is, okay, well, you know, and I know a lot of people, you know, and I deal with a lot of people all the time, you know. Some of them stand out and some of them don't. And, you know, and their expression to me was, okay, you know, Brian, he's capable of love, he's capable of empathy, you know, he's got a big heart, and he's wanting it, you know, he's open to it, you know, and man, you given the opportunity, you suck up the whole universe in a straw if you could. You know, I can see it right there in your eyes. So, you know, me and my pals, we just sent all of that to you. You know, all the love that we know, we sent all of that to you so that you could feel that, you know.
That's such an honor for you to say that. Yeah, I feel like humbled.
And it's that simple, you know. It's not technical. There's no great ritual. There's no pentagrams to be drawn on the ground and you know, spirits to be summoned. It's as simple as a heartfelt thought, you know, between a community of people who are connected, and you know, and you know, people think it's such a way out astounding thing to be connected with the Godhead or anything like that. But, and because they make it that way in their mind, they can't sort of get over that hump. But once you realize that speaking to God, speaking to Jesus, speaking to the archangels, speaking to some lump of sentient jelly in another dimension is as simple as we're talking together now, you know, through this magic window that we have here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is that simple, you know. It's anything that you can dream of, you know. If you can dream it, you can make it so, you know.
Man,
It can
that's
become a reality.
If you can dream it, you can make it so. That's a good point.
well, you know what? That's I mean, they've been working on my heart, the Sasquatch, my teachers, especially RE, has been working on my heart for a long time. And, you know, it's kind of amazing because you were thinking all that last night and kind of connecting and sending your energy out and whatever. And I had like an absolutely phenomenal thing happen last night that was just unbelievable. So where did Mike Carroll go? Oh,
He's back.
Alias.
Yes.
Alias Mike Carroll.
If I should shut my camera off, it means I might be going to the little boy's room. And for you to announce that kind of, you know, puts the kibosh on my stealthiness.
Oh,
I tell you what, you were bloody quick.
Yeah.
Already.
Because I had to explain it, because if I went to go pee, right, then I'd be having to listen to Brian going, "Where's Mike? Where's Mike?" You know what I mean? And that would kind of ruin the whole stealth, you know, ninja sneak away.
You don't have any secrets from me. I know everything about you, Mr.
Listen, on
Beans.
speaker view, you would never know, because they can't see the little boxes. They can only see the big boxes of the speakers. So you guys keep
See,
talking.
I don't like boxes. We have to be a big circle. We got to get away from the boxes. But anyway, so did you want to hear what happened to me last night? Because it's obviously tied into what you were saying, Peter.
Yeah. Well, we should speak about that because, and I'm glad that you received that, you know, and
Well,
I have no doubt that you would have. So, but be
because
interesting to see what you
yeah.
got from it.
Because they've been working on my heart anyway. Like I had a really emotional experience with the Sasquatch just a few days ago where they just had me in tears, and I think RE actually showed up again. Mike saw the picture. He came to me in like a mist, and I felt this energy, and I was weeping and everything. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So last night,
actually, it's very important that.
Oh, it is important.
Because that raw emotion, you know, when you burst into weeping, that is, you know, the words that we speak and the downloads that we get, and all the downloads that we get are not words as such. They're a vibration, which create feelings that we try to interpret as words. So when you just bust out crying and you may not even know why at the time, apart from the feeling of great love. Well, you know, that's exactly what it is, and the downloads don't get any better than that.
No, I know it was related, but I'll just quickly tell you what happened. And the reason I was so emotional is because there's an area where I go to where they make all their structures, and I see their glyphs, and they're always hanging around, and it's just a really magical area. And for some reason this year, there just hasn't been that much going on. I feel them at home. I feel the connection with them at home and stuff. But when I was going to the woods, I wasn't seeing any sign of them. And it was like, I was really like sad. And then I went there a couple of days ago to one of my favorite spots, and I seen like 3 new structures, some glyphs and a bunch of stuff. And I was just like, I just started crying and weeping because it was just like, you guys are back. You're back. And I was just like overcome with emotion. And also I asked RE to visit me, and I felt that had to be part of it. So it was just like, I was just like overcome with emotion because my guys were back, who I love so much. Right. So.
What about yourself previously to that? Have you been sort of a little bit out of the loop yourself? You know, I know with all this, what's been happening in the world, it's been a bit of a change up for everyone's lifestyle. So have you been, you know, you say that they haven't been around, like you've been getting contact at home, but you haven't been seeing them out there in the woods. So has your enthusiasm, you know, to be connected with them out on the land, has that been a little bit less than it would normally be before these current times?
I don't think so, Peter, but I think my vibration was lowering because I was buying too much into the drama, and I was getting mad at people, and I was like, and I, against my better knowing, I knew it was wrong. I know it's, you know, I can't do that, and I know, you know, that's not the way to go. But it was just like, you know how the stupidity is with people these days, and when you can
confusion. That's
and
what
when
it is.
And when you can see what's going on and whatever, you've got a clear vision and knowing of what's going on, and you just see all this stuff, and it's just like, just frustrates you. And so I actually got into a few arguments with some people. Like I actually said a couple, I wouldn't say like horrible things, but you know, like not who I want to be, right? Yeah. So I was distracted, and my vibration was lower for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you see the connection there now, yeah?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You see the connection now there between, you know, you were saying you felt a little disconnected, and then, you know, you had that elation when you felt like your tribe was back again. So you see the connection between the heart light there, between what's going on within you, and you know, them pulling back a little bit while you sort through that, you know.
Well, that's not new. I've always been aware of it, but you know, but we're human too, right? You know, I've always been aware of that. You know, not always, but for a long time, I've been aware of that. So it wasn't a new realization for me, but it is how it is. You know.
Well, it's that question, and when I ask you that, that's more of a realization for me. That's me getting to know you, you know.
Okay.
You've known, so that's something that I know about you now. and that's just the psychoanalyst in me. That's me, you know, getting to understand you from the inside out. So, yeah. But go on anyway, mate.
Did Mr. Beans get lost in going to the washroom or what?
Well, I think someone needs to tell him that if you shake it more than 3 times, you're actually playing with it, you know. So, he'll be grabbing the smoke, you know. But you know, that's all right. It's his, and he's allowed to wash it as fast as he likes. So.
Oh, that's what he's doing. Yeah, he can watch it after the fact. He can watch it after the fact. I didn't really want him to miss it, but yeah, he can watch it after the fact. Unless you want to talk about. Oh, there he is. Oh no, that's not him. Who's this? Your son?
Yeah, that's all 7 foot of my son. He was the young fella I was talking about before who got caught up by his mother.
I just, that thought just came to me as soon as I seen him. I said, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which isn't like, you know, I mean, I don't know how many sons you have, so it's not a great leap of faith, or it's not like psychic or anything. But yeah, I figured, oh, that's probably the guy who almost hit his head.
Yeah, that's Nathaniel. He's heading off to work. So go and feed the hungry hordes. He's a chef. And so at the moment he's starting pretty early, and he's at the moment he's feeding the local reserves who are taking care of security during this COVID business. So he's catering to feed the soldiers at the moment. That's what
nice.
The business is being asked to do. So he's doing.
So let's wait till Mike comes back to get into my story, because there he is. Because he always Mr. Beans always has some really good comments to say, and I don't want to miss out on them. So here he is. Welcome back, Mr. Beans. Hey, we were saying, did you shake it more than 3 times?
No, I was outside the window there, and I could hear you guys rattling on.
I bet you were.
No, because Peter made a very astute comment. He says, just for your information, if you're shaking it more than 3 times, Mr. Beans, you're playing with it.
I'm allowed to play with it. It's one of the freedoms you have in life.
Yes.
One of the only ones we have left, yeah. Okay, so anyway, so I'll get... Now that Mr. Beans is back, because I don't want to miss his astute, and I mean that honestly, his observations, because he's always got amazing insight, as you know. So I went to bed last night around 2 o'clock my time, and all of a sudden I felt like, and it was actually like a physical almost feeling. It was more than just, it was kind of like the love zap that I got, except like on steroids almost. It was deeper, more expansive. So I'm laying in bed there, and I literally felt my heart expanding, and it went out into the entire universe. So my heart was my heart filled the entire universe. I actually felt the sensation of it going out, and it filled the entire universe. And what happened was at that very day, I was arguing with some people, like being stupid, like I said, you know, like it's not me, it's not who I want to be, but, you know, the human condition, about, you know, stupid stuff like politics, like Trump and Black Lives Matter and all this stuff. And one of my friends dumped me. And then this other guy made a kind of what I thought was like a really rude comment to me. So I dumped him. And, you know, which isn't something I want to do. So anyway, so after I felt my heart expanding, and it literally felt it, and it was everywhere. My heart, the entire universe, my heart was encompassed it all, you know. And then I started.
And that's available to you now all the time.
Yeah. And then,
okay.
oh, I know. Yeah. And then I started
As
crying
much as
because
you expanded that out to the universe, that the whole universe is now available to you to bring
and then
it in.
and then I started weeping about the people that, those two people, that the one dropped me and then the one that I dropped. I started weeping about them because I felt my heart was connected to everything, and I felt the loss, and I felt sad, and I felt like I felt their hurt. I felt everything, all their emotions about it, and I felt the loss because they weren't, you know, my heart was everywhere, and yet they were kind of like, you know, we're all one and all connected. They were kind of like somewhere else, whatever, if you know what I mean. I felt the I felt the loss and whatever. So I was weeping about that, and then I just started realizing anybody I thought about, I could feel their love. I could feel all the things about. I could just feel everything about them. It was just like they say that when you die, whatever, you have an all-knowing, and you could feel and experience everything. It's kind of like if I thought about it, I could get right in there, right? And then, you know, and then I love the Sasquatch. Like, well, I don't know. I mean, as much as anybody I know, but can you hear somebody talking? Anyway, so but then I realized, you know, Sasquatch are all about, they want to connect you with yourself. They don't want to be idolized or put on a pedestal and even be the focus. If they're the teachers or whatever. And I realized that I didn't have them on a pedestal as much. I still love them just as much, but I took responsibility for my own light, and I felt strong in that light. You know what I mean? Which is what they want. That's what they want.
Yeah,
That's
they want you
whole,
to have what they have.
Yes.
You know, they know where it's at. They want you to experience what they know, what they have, you know.
Yeah, and
But
so
start again with I took responsibility for my own light. Say that again. Start from there again.
Yeah, say it 3 times.
I took responsibility for my own light. It wasn't like I was giving the Sasquatch all the credit. I still love them. It wasn't like I was depending on them. I was like, it was me that was doing it. It was within me. I was capable of it. They didn't have to take me there. They were showing me that I was capable, and that I was, yeah, I guess basically responsible for my own light. Is that what you wanted to hear, Mike? Or Mr. Beans?
That needs to be said with emphasis.
And like I said, and then I was thinking about my girlfriend who, you know, were having a kind of a tough situation. I felt her heart and her hurt because, you know, she's in the States and I'm in Canada and we can't see each other. And everybody I thought of, I could feel. And then behind my eyes, I started like, I just thought of something, and I was like having like a dream, like when I was awake. I could anything I visualized, I could see. I started thinking about Sasquatch, and I seen 2 little Sasquatch faces appear. I saw some little animal faces appear. I saw a mountain scene with a train going through the mountains, and it was like I was creating right on the spot anything that I wanted to create, like in a real-time dream when I wasn't sleeping, kind of, or like I was there or something. And then I was thinking, okay, this is something that I can develop. You know, it was like everything I thought I could see.
Yeah. That sort of visualization is often it's actually not you thinking of it. If that's things being given to you that you visualize, so that, you know, from those snippets, those little visions, then you can try and put that into a thought or a word or a feeling or an emotion. And sometimes you can get like, there'll be like, say you got those random images, you went from Sasquatch babies to, you know, a train flowing through the mountain. And when you analyze those snippets, right, because they're like sentences. Each picture, each little vision, each little motion picture that's given to you is like it's a download in a sentence, and so you have to look behind the visualization and think what that means to you in each clip. You know, break the clips up as you saw them, and then get the feeling of the information. Maybe it'll prompt you into a certain thought or an emotion or a memory about something, or maybe all of those things. But once you analyze that, and maybe you might have to go over it and over it, but if you remember it clearly, and you may have to go over it for a year, but at some point you will get a message that's been given to you from those visualizations, and it's going to be something important. You know, it's not going to be just something random or frivolous.
It seemed to me like I was experimenting with it, and it was like all new to me because I've never ever done anything like that before. I don't even really remember my dreams mostly, and so it was like I started realizing, wait a minute, I'm thinking this, and there it is. I see it. So it was kind of like I was playing around with that for a while, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
well, it would have felt like an experiment because you hadn't done it before. So, you know, this is why I'm, you know, just relayed to you what I relayed to you. You know, you're experimenting with it, and you know, I recommend that you do that. You do your own. You know, like I can say to you, you know, this is what's happening, but it really means next to nothing unless you do your own experimentation with it and learn how to utilize it yourself, because we all work with these energies that come out of us and into us in our own ways. And the only way we learn that is by asking our own questions, answering our own questions, and performing our own little experiments and things like that. That way, you know, what we end up knowing is 100% us, not what people have led you to believe it could be or guided you into trying to do it in a certain way. So just keep going the way you're going, you know, and just be mindful of it, keep experimenting, you know, keep trying to do that work. There's a lot of information available, you know, keep visualizing and try and turn it into, you know, knowledge.
Oh, I agree. But I think, but like I said, I agree with you. But like it was an introduction, and it was just like, okay, I'm capable of this. Well, I can do this, and so it was like, okay, I'm going to be able to do this, and it's going to evolve. You know, and so it was like a whole new kind of door opened up for me, and that's how I was looking at it. So at that point, you know, just with that early infancy of this happening, I wasn't thinking about what the message was. I just thought at that time I was just creating whatever I wanted to think about. But but it was new, you know, it was new. So
yeah, maybe there wasn't a lot in it except for the sheer realization that you can do this, you know, and yeah, like you say, you've opened that door now, so you know, and you can keep working with that and use it to your advantage, you know.
And the other thing, and the other thing is well, I mean, hopefully I don't forget anything, because I mean, I think I'm probably going to have a lot more come to me, because it was like really a lot of deep stuff. But one thing was I was feeling people's pain, and I was feeling people's love, and I was feeling everything. But the pain was okay because the love was the predominant thing. The pain was contained within the love. So I was experiencing it, but it wasn't overwhelming me. Although, because the love was the predominant thing, and it was in that space of no judge, that vibration or whatever. But I did also think, wait a minute, I can feel everybody's, all this emotions, and all this stuff. And I said, this might be a little overwhelming. I was thinking this could be a little bit heavy for a while or whatever. I was thinking, but yeah.
It can be overwhelming. It can be at times, depending on what you're focusing on. But welcome to the fifth dimension.
I want to add a quote.
Mr. Beans, Mr. Beans is in the second 2.5 dimensions, but he's almost up to the third. So you're.
I want to add a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. There's a quote in the Bhagavad Gita that says, "He who experiences all the pain of this world, all the pain of the universe," it said that. Then it says that is the beginning of consciousness.
Yeah, that's what I felt.
What that means is this: that when you go through that veil and enter into all the pain, then all the pain becomes, as you said, surrounded by love, and then that's the connection to everything. So that's and that's what Peter's talking about. Welcome to that level. That's the beginning of consciousness, because consciousness, as we know it on the earth, is kind of pretty limited.
Yeah, that's right. And and the levels keep going up depending on the work that you do. Like I was waltzing around here just the other day, and I was somewhere between the 10th and 12th dimension, and like my body's walking around the house, but that's not where my spirit was. And my wife Carrie Ann bumped into me apparently really hard with her elbow, and she's hit me really hard as we're going about the house doing whatever we were doing. And she says to me, "Oh, I'm sorry, darling. I just hit you really hard with my elbow then. That must have hurt. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that." And I'm like, what? I didn't even feel it, because I was in another dimension at the time, and like she was in third dimension, whatever. And in the third dimension, Carrie Ann had hit me very hard with her elbow, and I should have noticed that, but because I was not in the same dimension as her, her arm might as well just pass straight through me, and in the third dimension, obviously it happened, but I'm not aware of it, and I bruise very easily, because of blood pressure and all that sort of thing. And there was no mark, and a knock like that I should have come up red straight away, So So and that's what it's like once you start raising up in these vibrations of different dimensions. That it's a bit of a weird experience, because when I'm in a headspace in another dimension, and once upon a time I used to have to sort of focus on it and think about it and whatnot, and it took a long time. It's taken me 50 odd years to peel away the corruption to get to this stage. But now, if I decide that I'm going to be off in another dimension when I'm out and about, and I don't really have to sit and meditate and put the fingers together. I can do it while I'm walking around in the supermarket.
Wow.
And when I go to those places, most people don't even know I'm there. You know, I get people bump into me all the time, apparently. You know, because my wife will say, "Oh, that person just fucking bumped into you. That's a bit rude." I'm going, like, okay, you know, if you say so, darling, you know, and it's not like I'm off with the pixies or my you know, that my nerves have become numb, that I'm not aware of it, and I'm because I don't take drugs and I don't drink alcohol. I haven't done for sort of like 30 years, you know, 25, 30 years. So I'm not walking around, you know, numbed out or some sort of space cadet or something like that. I'm you know, when I'm present, I'm present, and when I'm in another dimension, well, I'm not present, but I'm certainly not on a psychedelic trip. I'm deliberately exactly where I want to be, you know, and so that I find is being a very interesting experience, and we can all do it, you know, if we want to. But and you know, like before, I was saying, you know, you don't really have to start conjuring up things or you know gathering your crystals together or banging your little cymbals or something like this. But one thing you do really have to do if you want to raise up in your own spiritual dimensionality is you have to drop away that corruptible part of you, because you know that is the highway to perfection, and that is dropping away corruptibility. First you have to lose your own corruption, then you have to become incorruptible. So no matter, you know, who does what to you, what they say to you, you know, what they do to you, you know, you're not going to turn around and you're not going to do anything that's outside of the realm of love, compassion, empathy, or any such thing, you know.
Well, when I'm in that, I've realized when I'm in that high vibration, I mean, even before this, when I was in that vibration that the Sasquatch are in, that's exactly how I feel. I have unconditional love for everybody. It doesn't matter what they do, because you know, I feel the connection. So you know, it's no judgment, basically.
Yeah. Unconditional love is sort of, it's a bit of a tough one, you know. There's sort of you know, there are always conditions pretty much on everything, you know. That's how the universe works, you know. The universe isn't just some freewheeling thing, you know. It is very mathematical, and it's very precise, even though it may seem like chaos and randomness sometimes.
I mean, when I'm in that vibration, though, I don't have any judgment. But it's hard to, you know, you can't always stay there. I think I'm.
No.
I mean,
you can't.
What?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you can, but I mean, I can't always stay there because it's been only, you know, like I haven't been doing it for 50 years. Like
from the physical body.
Right.
If you lose your physical body, you can stay there all the time. But for as long as you have a physical entity in this three-dimensional world, it's pretty hard to stay in any other dimension, because, you know, you have to be back here to defend your physical body. Because if you don't, then someone else will inhabit it for you. You know, these bodies are just vessels. You know, if you stay in another dimension too long, you know, there's plenty other characters out there who quite inhabit, you know, quite happy to come and inhabit your skull, you know. they're looking for empty vessels all the time. So, you know,
Oh,
as
that's my
much as
problem. Empty vessel.
tell me about it.
That's my problem, Mr. Beans. Finally figured it out. But no, I agree with you. But there's a lot more that happened, but I just can't really. I've forgotten a lot. I gotta kind of work my way through it. But it was amazing. But a couple things, like I said, highlights. Well, not even highlights, but a couple things that come to mind. When I felt my heart encompassing the entire universe, that was dramatic. That was like, oh my God. And when I felt the loss of those two people who left my circle or whatever, because they're a part of the whole. And so I felt that loss. That was really something for me too, because I was crying about it. Like, I miss you. I've lost you, kind of thing, because when you're connected to everything, if a little piece goes away, at least I felt the loss anyway. So, and Peter, there was a lot more to it, a lot more deeper than that even, but I just, I guess more will come to me, whatever. I've maybe forgotten a couple things, but
until you process it, process it, process what you remember. If you're a journal type person, jot it down, journalize it, pop it on your computer as quick as you can, and then you can move on to processing some of those other things before you maybe lose it. But usually with downloads like that, you may remember a great portion of it now, or a certain portion of it now, and you maybe for the life of you know there's other stuff there, but can't grab hold of it. But there'll come a time in the future where it'll get prompted and it'll come back to you, it'll be a smell or a sensation or a feeling or a situation that occurs. And usually once you get sort of downloads like that, they stay stuck in there, and they're just waiting to be brought back up again,
No, that's absolutely true, because I remember I've thought that for a long time. I remember when I was getting the downloads coming in from top of my head when I'm walking in the forest, and other downloads, I always knew, I said, wait, this is being stored somewhere. I did have a greater knowing right off the bat, but there's a lot of stuff that was just being stored that you said would come out later when needed or when it was time. So absolutely, yeah. What you said is exactly what I was thinking too, and knew, yeah. That's
so
great.
There's no need to really sort of stress over it or worry about it, or get too far ahead of yourself into thinking, really I gotta remember all of this, and I hope I haven't missed something, because it will reveal itself in time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably find that most of what you're remembering now, all the stuff that's very prominent from last night, is relevant to your now, So, and then of course, as time ticks on, there'll be other nows, and there'll be other stuff that will be relevant, and you'll recall it. We all have this cloud type situation, which is, it all stays up there in sort of, like, how can I express, like in a soul level, in the highest part of yourself, which is outside of this dimension, outside of time and whatnot. It's all there, but it's like when you use a computer and you store stuff in the cloud because you're not using it now, and it's the same sort of thing. There's only so much stuff that you really need to use while you're here having this human experience and gaining knowledge dropping dead weight and doing all sorts of interesting things as you increase yourself as a sovereign, eternal being, you know.
I think, if I might interject, I think we should wrap up this section because this is actually phenomenal what's going on here. I think there's like 5 or 6 people involved in what's happening between all of us. There was Christina did a session with you, and then then we had Sam Chandler. Sam Chandler had his heart opening experience, and yours was not the same, but maybe it was even it was beyond his. And then you had Peter talking to angels, to God, to all these different beings, and as he was talking to them about you, they sent you energy. And then there was Kevin Royce, who when Peter was watching the Kevin Royce show, interview we did, then he was given sort of like a mind speak vision about who the Sasquatch are and what's going on with them and their position in the world in relationship to Earth. So that's that, and then there's me, as just happens to be the witness of all this, and then your experience. So it's all kind of this whole all one is all. It just goes beyond now just the Sasquatch people. But a reason why I wanted to cap it off is because this is really Peter's show, and
I was just thinking that, yeah.
I wanted him to talk about how he got to the point of which is a good story actually, how he got to the point of being able to talk with angels and specifically and other beings, right? But specifically, he has a great story about one time Jesus just popped up and they talked for, I don't know what it was, a half hour or an hour. So maybe Peter, if you could.
I just want to say though about Sam Chandler, his experience was phenomenal. I wouldn't want to compare. They're both so precious.
Phenomenal.
They're both so precious, like.
Pork and Bean Show. We're here making jokes, but there's phenomenal stuff going on here.
Yeah, I mean Sam Chandler and Kevin Royce, they both blew me away. They're all. They give you what you personally need, and I think when you get to a certain point where you are not, why doesn't that happen to me, or why don't I get this or that or whatever, when you're satisfied and you won't change your experiences and your lessons with anybody else, that's a very good place to be. And personally, I wouldn't trade my experiences for anybody. And it's not because I think they're better than anybody's, but because they're mine, right? And it's my journey, my growth. The thing that my teachers
we're trying to get away from you and back onto Peter if we can.
I know. I just wanted to bring that up about Sam though. So anyway, yeah, let's get back. I want to hear Peter's story. Absolutely. So go for it.
Well, let's see, where were we? Speaking with Jesus, right? Okay. I think I recall what you were talking about. I was sitting out the back garage, out the back door, just having a smoke and listening to music, as I often do. And I was, I don't know, as I remember, I think I was just in a headspace where I was, just considering. I think I'd read a few, memes come up online and what, it was rounding up on 2019, and a lot of people putting up their memes, they're getting in early on their New Year's resolutions, going, 2020 is going to be a great year, and this is going to be a turning point, and all this sort of thing, and 2020 is going to be the year, And I'm sitting there and I'm shaking my head and I'm going, you guys are just going to be so horribly disappointed, And I had no idea about COVID or how this year was going to start. I had no, I wasn't given any privy information to this sort of thing or anything like that. I just had a knowing in my gut that, these people have thought 2020 is going to be an amazing year. My gut was telling me, 2020's it's not going to be like that at all, sort of thing. So, and I was just sort of thinking like that, and I'm, looking around in the backyard, and my little bird friends are coming in and they're saying hello and they're dropping in and out and talking to me, and the lizards are coming up and nibbling on my feet and saying hello as they do. And I've got 3 green snakes that live out in my hedges, which are like a couple of feet out my back door for a little privacy hedge in the back there. And, they're dropping in out of the bushes and catching food and so on. I'm just watching nature do its thing and whatnot. And, and I'm thinking, I'm just thinking about the people in general, like Brian yourself, you were saying how you had this energy burst about how you felt the whole universe, you felt the world, and you had all that compassion come in. Well, I get that sort of thing on a regular basis. To me, it's like, you're having your little radio cast, your podcast or whatever tonight. Well, I podcast this stuff out to the world myself all the time without even turning on a computer, and I get this stuff come in and I put it out to the whole world as well. And so it's just being mindful of everybody and thinking about things and anyway, Jesus shows up right in front of me, and like I can't see him. It's like mind speak with Sasquatch. I didn't get this apparition of Jesus in front of me or something like that, but he was there. He was. I could feel him. The air was that thick with him. I could almost see him. And we just start sitting down and having a chat, and he's just saying to me, well, because I've spoken to him many times in my own mind, because I'm aware of him, as many people in the world are, and but and so I guess it was just this time where he probably had time and he's just dropped in and gone, well, how's it going, Pete? And thanks for being a good brother. And not right as I'm saying this now, I'm getting a high-pitched ringing in my ears. It's just come in and it's just gone out again. So
I know what you mean.
Connections being made.
Yeah.
And
I get that too with energy. It's a confirmation, right?
Yeah, that's it.
It's you're talking the truth. You're talking when you talk the truth, they give you that. Go for it. You're talking the truth.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a lot of Christian people will call it like the Holy Spirit or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and he's just going, well, thanks for being a good brother, and thanks for believing in me when so many people don't, and and so many religions and that make up this and that about me. They say that I'm this and I'm that. And, you know, he was letting me know that, that my understanding of him and my feeling that I have of him and that I know of him in a personal way, he's letting me know that I'm right on the mark, you know, that I am who I think he is, you know.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because when they are teaching you, these high beings are teaching you on that level, you don't get false information. It's too important.
That's right.
They give you the facts. They give you the real deal, and that speaks right into what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, and he's letting me know that, you know, he's, I guess on his part, it's like a reassurance of a good friend, you know, saying, well, okay, you know, you know, you're on the right track and you've got the right impression, and then you're not deluded, you know, or anything like that. And you know, and it went both ways too, you know. And I sort of spoke to him in a mind speak way about, you know, well, you know, just thanks for everything. You know, I appreciate you as much as, you know, you appreciate me being a good family member. You know, I appreciate you in the same way. There's so many understandings and learnings, and even just right from the beginning of just the knowing of, you know, who you are has, you know, set me on a path that, you know, if I'd have chosen not to know you at all, if I denied you as a brother, you know, I wouldn't have, you know, gone in directions, you know, in my life or in my thoughts or anything like that, you know. There's a lot of places that I wouldn't have gone, you know, that I've been. And if I hadn't gone to those places that he sent me to, just by the mere knowing of his name, even before I begun to understand and relate to him intimately. And that's been, you know, it's made me a very grateful and humble person.
Can I say one thing? Can I say one thing quickly? And it's your time. But I forgot a very key part of what I experienced, and it's just make it really, really quickly. I realized that the love I was feeling, I can put that out to. I've experimented with that before earlier. I can put that love out to the world, and actually, it really makes a difference. I could send that out to the universe and heal in some small way or whatever. So that was a big realization too. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's good that you've learnt that and that you realise that, because that's going to help you grow, and, you know, it's going to help you a lot. And it's okay to interject, you know, like, I know this is supposed to be about me speaking, but I have this thing when I speak in circles and when I speak with people, that you know, and this is known amongst people that I have meetings with and whatnot, professionally as well, that when the spirit comes upon you, when you've got something to say, you know, we have this unspoken rule that, you know, because society tends to teach us that it's rude to talk over the top of somebody or something, or that you should let them. If the spirit comes over you, you feel the need to speak, you know, I could be in the middle of a sentence and I'll shut up straight away, or I'll stop and let you continue, and I'll go back to it. It's important when, because a lot of the time when the spirit comes upon you, it's important that you say
Did you tell
what's
Mr.
being
Beans
said
that?
in the moment,
Because I tried interrupting Mr. Beans and he gives me nothing but grief. He says it's not important, but no. But the reason I do it is because exactly.
That's because it's your ego that interrupts, not your spirit. If your
Oh
spirit
no. If I have a really something comes to me that like I have to say it right then, otherwise I'm going to forget it. And it's not frivolous stuff, at least not to me.
Yeah. And that's important, and not everybody has to communicate that way, but if you're the type of person who, if you don't say it then and there, you're going to forget it, it's important that you say it,
See, because the reason is because there's no coincidence. What you're saying, like it's almost like you're saying exactly what I'm thinking at the time. That's weird. You're saying exactly what I'm thinking. And so I have to put my bit in it too to kind of make it more real, kind of thing, right?
I get that all the time.
Yeah.
I met a young fella a little while back, and it was the first time I met him. He was a friend of my sister's, and we were introduced, and I met him while I was visiting my sister. And we sat down, we're talking about things, and somehow I'm sitting there and I'm explaining about how beings outside, or entities outside of time, how they can see, back in time and forward in time. Mm-hmm. And I was using like a loaf of bread as an analogy at the time, and viewing the loaf of bread from different angles and cutting back through, or if you were on the other side of the loaf of bread and you could see a timeline and anyway, but basically after
that's what the Sasquatch people do. That's what they do.
Yeah. And after I said what I said, he said to me, he goes, well, man, he said, you've just fucking blown me away, because I've never met you before, and I didn't even ask you about this subject, and you've just sat down and everything that you said makes sense to me. And he said, I have been thinking about this very thing for the last couple of weeks, and just totally perplexed over the whole thing, trying to figure it out. And he said, you've just wandered in here and you've sat down without even me asking you about it, and you've just laid it on the table for me in a simple loaf of bread analogy that probably a 7-year-old could have got it. And he said, I get it, and he's gone, just, that's it. I'm blown away. I'm done, you know, that's it. You're my friend for life now. And I go, well, that's okay. I can use friends for life all the time.
That's very common. That happens all the time, especially with somebody as spiritually sound as you. I mean, we realize that all the time. Like you just say the right things to the right people because you're connected to them because they need that at the time. Or so amazing.
Yeah, a lot of it comes out of nowhere. I don't even know where it comes from after it's gone.
You know what I'm really enjoying about this interview is when we came in here, Mr. Bean says, well, you don't know anything about this subject, so you just be eye candy for the 80 plus crowd, and I'll do all the talking. And he hasn't said a damn thing. And that's
I did want to break in. This is a good time to break in. I want to ask Peter. Peter told us how he got to be the way he was, because he was like a motorcycle guy and a rock and roll guy, and he was living a pretty wild life. But then he got married and so on, and then he had a heart attack, and it was during this time that that he had like a near-death experience, and then it went on to where he was immobilized for months and months and months. And it was during that time that some of these things developed. And I wonder if you would tell that story, because a lot of people are going to want to know, how did you get to the 12th dimension? You know, I mean, this is not, and you didn't do it through meditation or yoga or ayahuasca. So I think that would be a good story if you want to tell it.
Are you asking him, when did it all start developing, in other words? Like, when did you realize? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, when? Yeah, exactly. I want to hear that too. How did it all begin for you? Yeah.
Well, geez, I'm just trying to think how to make a long story short.
And yeah, but don't shake it more than 3 times.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to have to play around with this one. I am going to have to play around with it. Look, my first real inkling of any change from, basically, a lot of people just go around and what they see in front of them is the world, and they don't really believe anything unless they see it, or unless they can prove it with mathematics or science or something like that. But my first inkling into knowing that I was, something more than what I was probably when I was around 10 years old. And we were living in a caravan park, sort of out in the sticks, away from nowhere. And I was sleeping in the annex, in the canvas annex attached to the side of the caravan, and I had this sort of army issue canvas bunk that I slept in there. And anyway, I'm laying there one night, and I can hear this humming sound coming in. And you ever heard the electricity transformers on the electricity poles humming?
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard that sound?
Yeah.
And it sounded a bit like that. And I remember laying in bed on this night. It was a very still night, and it was just coming out of winter and into spring. And at first I thought and I knew there was a big transformer about 600 or 700 metres down the caravan park out on the main road. And for you guys in Imperial, that's about half a mile. So I knew there was a big transformer out on the road. So I'm sort of thinking to myself, okay, maybe there's a gentle breeze and the sound of this transformer's just wafting down. And because I've only got a canvas annex around me, I'm virtually in a tent on, stuck to the side of a caravan, I can hear everything. And I'm sort of thinking it's that, and then it starts getting louder and it's louder, and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, well, if it's coming from out on the main, on the arterial road, it should be sounding like it's coming from south up to me. But it sounded like it was coming from above me and coming down louder and louder on top of me. Didn't sound like it was coming to me this way. It sounded like it was coming down on top of me.
From the sky?
And yeah. It sounded like it was above me coming down. And I'm sort of thinking, that's weird. And even as a 10-year-old, I thought, oh, well, who knows how sound bounce. I had the bush right next to me. Who knows how sound's bouncing off all the things around me and the other caravans parked around. And I'm just sort of taking it in. And then I could notice there was sort of like we had a windbreaker on the bottom of the caravan, which covers the wheels and the under of the van to stop the wind coming into the annex. and I had a canvas zip door on the front of it. And I was sort of right next to the zip door, and I had a small shelf there dividing it from the door. I had to get out of bed and sort of walk around, unzip the door and go outside, and I could see this really bright light, you know, like the light that's coming in behind your shades there, behind you, Brian. You know, it's coming in white like that. And I can see it. It's coming through the cracks in the windbreaker, and there's probably about a half an inch between the bottom of the annex walls and the ground that was exposed. I could see the light beaming in through that, you know, and it was at that time, even as a 10-year-old, I'm thinking, oh, there's a bloody UFO over the top of me, you know. There's a flying saucer out there, you know. And, you know, being in a 10-year-old's mind. And I really wanted to get out of bed and go and unzip the door and walk outside and look to see what the hell is going on outside, you know. And but I couldn't get off my stretcher, and it wasn't through fear or anything like that, because I didn't feel afraid at all. I was not, you know, frozen there because I was scared that aliens were coming to get me or something. I had, you know, the inquisitiveness of the child, and I really wanted to get up and go out and look, and I could not get off this bed. It was like I had a 1-ton weight sitting on top of me. You know, I just couldn't move a muscle.
That's not unusual.
And
I've heard that a lot.
Apparently not. No. Apparently not. And then the next thing I know, the light is disappearing. You know, it's starting to fade out from the cracks around the windbreakers and under the walls. And I can hear the sound rising up and moving away again. And then I lost this being stuck to the stretcher thing, and I quickly got up and unzipped the door and went outside and had a look, and there's nothing there. So I think probably at that time I'd probably been taken up. Mm-hmm. I can't say for sure, but having no recollection, there was, you know, I don't remember being in a craft or seeing any beings. All I remember was 1 minute saw the light, feeling way down on the bed, and then it went away again. But I think something happened there. But the one thing I do know is that in those times, my brother and sister had moved away, so it was only me, and there wasn't a lot of other young people in the caravan park, so I was pretty well left to my own devices most of the time, and Dad was always doing shift work, and Mum was no prize. I usually tried to avoid her because she just nagged, and so I pretty well kept myself. And so bushwalks was a big thing for me. And apart from that, I used to like to do art. You know, I didn't have any toys as such. I never had anything like that because my parents were fishers' butts. And but I always managed to scrounge up a pencil and a piece of paper, a scrap of paper to write on or draw on or something. So, and as a 10-year-old, my drawing was often just like two-dimensional images, you know, and I used to, like most young boys, I like cars and things like that, motorbikes and stuff. And so I'd draw pictures of cars, and it was pretty much, you know, just the roof and the side, and then a couple of things, and then draw a couple of wheels in a two-dimensional car, and that's how I draw them. sometimes I try to make them look like a rocket ship on wheels or something like that, get a bit imaginative, but it was always two-dimensional. The next day after that visit, straight away, I was picking up my pencil and I was drawing three-dimensional pictures. I was drawing in isometric views, perfect isometric views. And instead of drawing just like square Simpsons cars or something like that, I was drawing these, 1950 hot rod tea buckets with the V8s hanging out the front and the exhaust pipes everywhere and the flame jobs up the side, and all the rest of it. And I went directly from these two-dimensional pictures to drawing stuff that, I could have sent them off to a hot rod magazine and had them illustrated in the machine, where they, do their cartoon pictures of hot rods and things like that. So, and that even blew me away, and it was almost like auto writing. It was just, I put my pencil to the paper and it was just happening, and ever since then, also my whole perspective of the world had changed. It wasn't, I was seeing everything in a three-dimensional way very quickly. And not long after that, joined a lapidary club, and I was off fossiling my own rocks and making jewelry. And when I was digging in the creek banks and around the place, and and I'd pull a rock out of the creek bank or something, I could already virtually see inside the stone, even though it was just brown and dirty. I already sort of knew what was inside it, and I knew exactly the shape of the piece of the jewelry that I was going to make out of it, how I was going to cut and cap the stone. And it was like the rock was speaking to me, saying, I don't want to be a rock in the bank here anymore. I want to be a beautiful, shiny object hanging around a lady's neck and communicating with, people and whatnot, and I could virtually hear the rocks saying this in the bank while I was digging them out. There could be 20 other rocks right there in the bank, and none of those other rocks are speaking to me. There's nothing about those rocks that there's no vibration coming from them, but they'll just be one rock, because you've got this whole creek bank full of rocks, and it's like a lucky dip, and you got to decide which rock do you want to take. I was pretty much a novice. At 10, 11 years of age, I didn't really know what was going to be inside a rock by seeing the colours on the outside. It was pretty much guesswork. But I could virtually hear the rocks saying, "Take me home," and give me a home. And I used to take them home and cut them up on a diamond saw and cap them all up and make jewelry settings, buy the chains, and make them into jewelry. And I would go door to door in the nearest neighbourhood and just knock on people's door. And it was almost like I knew who the person was that was going to receive this stone before I'd even brought it home from the creek bank, It was like the rock. It was like the rock had already decided where it was going and where it wanted to be, and I was just facilitating, taking it from where it was and going to where it wants to be. And I'd take this jewelry and go around town, and I didn't get many knockbacks. I didn't really get too many doors that I didn't knock on, where I've knocked on a door and, you know, middle-aged ladies open the door and I've got my selection of, you know, costume jewelry here, saying, oh, would you like to buy one of my handmade jewelries for $5 or something like that, you know, which is probably a bargain for them. And they were snapping them up, you know. I'd leave with 10 or 15 pieces of jewelry, come home with nothing. And that's how I'd make my pocket money, you know, things like that. And I moved on from there and I started playing guitar. And I found out I was quickly very good at that. And because I spent a lot of time in the bush, and you'd probably relate to this, Brian, of just singing your lungs out as you're wandering through the forest.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, so, and I found myself doing that too. So my voice very quickly developed because, you know, there was no one out in the bush to hear me. So I could put plenty of power behind it and not have to feel introverted at all. And that very quickly moved on to being bread and butter as well, you know, and before I knew it, you know, I was 13, 14 years of age and I'm standing in the malls and I'm on the main streets with my guitar and my guitar case out, raking in the money, busking away and getting oranges and apples and bananas and money. And before long, I had a lot of the shop owners, you know, they'd say, you know, like, come and play in front of my shop because it would bring the people and get the crowd around, you know. And you know, if I was playing outside the front of the bakery, then, you know, bakery throw me a free pie or a sausage roll, you know, and that sort of thing, come playing. And then the coffee shop would say, come down at lunchtime, play in front of the coffee shop, will you? Get a toasted sandwich and a coffee, and plus all the money that I would make from people throwing money. And so that became very popular as well. And for a few years, a lot of that was my bread and butter, especially when I left home.
Can I ask you a question about the rocks? Can I ask you a couple of questions about the rocks? First of all, how did you know which rock was talking to you? How did you realize? Because there's probably thousands of rocks laying there, right?
Yeah.
How did you focus on the one that was talking to you?
Well, it's like when you sit in front of a stereo, you know when the sound's coming out of the speaker, you know? Like, say you got stereo and you got two speakers each side of you, and you can hear the sound coming from the speaker in front of you. You know, it's not coming behind you or beside you. You can hear the sound coming out of the speaker. Right. And you look at the speaker and you go, I know the sound's coming out there because I can hear and virtually see the direction. And that's how it was with the rocks. They were speaking to me and I could virtually pinpoint right on that rock. I used to go out.
Sorry. Yep, go ahead.
I used to go out to a place called Roma out on the Darling Downs, Maranoa. And out there's a lot of fields there that have been washed away by rain and whatnot. And at some point, they must have been an ancient forest. And there's a lot of petrified wood out there. And because the earth is very red, they've been petrified in a red mud. So it's turned the wood into a very, you know, like crimson colour. And I took a few runs out there with on the club bus with the Lapidary Club, and there was just sort of like, it was like miles of this dead flat ground that looked like water's just run over and it's turned to mud and then dried out.
I wanted to make a really good point on those rocks or ask you what you think. So I think that those rocks already knew what people they wanted to go to because they have consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
That the rock led you to the person it wanted to be with, right? And also it probably gave you or the understanding of who that person was too. Because you said you knew who the person was you were going to go to before you even seen them, right?
Well, not really.
Maybe I missed your point, but
Maybe unconsciously, I may have known who to go and see, and maybe there was something unconscious going there, walking out on the right day, picking the right street, knocking on the right doors.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that was all, you know, happening for me without me actually, you know, directing it. But
I'm pretty sure The Rock knew who they wanted to go to, though.
I'm pretty sure of that too, you know. I'm pretty sure The Rock already had its destination worked out long before I even got it onto the diamond cutter, you know.
As a matter of fact, even before you saw The Rock, you know, even before you came upon The Rock, it knew probably where it wanted to go and how it was going to go down. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the same with the petrified wood too. You know, there was old ground. There's petrified wood sticking out everywhere. You know, it was like, you know, it was. I could virtually visualize the forest as it might have been when it was alive, and I could see the rocks sticking out of the ground, and it was the same thing. You know, there was just hundreds of them all over the place, and you really, you know, and a lot of it looked much the same as the next. Some pieces were bigger and smaller, but it was all pretty much the same type of petrified wood, and it was all the same colour. And I just walked in amongst it, and then I'd hear the rock speak to me, you know, and it would, you know, it'd be beckoning me to say, you know, pick me up and take me home with you, you know. And that's how I used to choose what I was going to take, you know, because I could have taken a dump truck load of it home, but I only had sort of a bucket worth that I could take home, and so I had to be a little selective. But I really didn't select any of it at all. It selected me,
Right.
you know. Yeah, and because I'm standing there as a young bloke once again, and I'm going, well, what do I pick up? What do I take home? And naturally, I look for things like fractures in it and things like that, and work out whether it's going to be a workable piece of rock or whether it's just going to fall apart the moment that I put any stress on it, because I was quite aware of that sort of thing. But every piece that spoke to me often was flawless, and, you know, beautiful designs, and, you know, you get all the markings of the wood through the stone as you cut it and start to polish it. It's like, you know, looking at the rings on a tree stump, you know. So, but anyway, that's where I sort of started to get an inkling that you know, I was more not just in the world, but a part of the world, you know. And I don't know whether that's something that E.T. kicked off for me. I think definitely they had something to do with it. And I had another visit from them sometime later with a lost time experience.
If I might interrupt, we're going over 2 hours now, and we need to make a little executive decision whether we should wind it up or come back for another show or extend it. So,
well,
what do you?
Kevin was over 3 hours. I mean, we can go for at least another half hour or whatever, but we're definitely not going to be able to get, you know, we're only scratching the surface, so we're going to definitely get Peter back one way or the other. I mean, you know.
Yeah. So what do you feel about Peter? How do you want to run it?
Well, we can do, if you want to, we can do another half an hour, but I'm happy to come back another time as well.
If we came back another time, then you'd have more time because you still have. You haven't talked about your walkabout yet, and you haven't talked about your heart thing where you started really going into the other dimensions, and which is on your own steam. You went to the other dimensions, and so maybe we can save that for another
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. Well, look, mate, I could do a book this thick, really, honestly. So, no shortage of materials. That's why I sent you a message a few days ago saying, look, you open the cans, you pick the topic, you open the cans and I'll spill the beans, You pick the topic. You pick a topic, and I'll bloody have something to say on it,
Yeah. Well, we've got a lady coming up. I guess we're going to be changing to Fridays now for our recording time next week. But then maybe we can have it the week after because it's just too important to stuff to, and I want to hear it all. But let's, give us something else. I mean, give us a something dear to your heart to maybe end this one off, and then we'll we're going to come back for sure. There's no question.
Well, I think the original question was when did I what was it that I really sort of started making a connection, sort of thing. So
you did a good job of like when you started, because that was completely different than my idea was. You were living a rough and tough life with just sort of the natural experiences, and then you had your heart attack, and that was like I thought that was the key. But see now I'm looking at it as in another way. You gave a whole nother from 10 years old and ET experiences, and then the psychic abilities and drawing and all this kind of simple but profound connections and experiences that you accessed.
Yeah. It wasn't just sort of had a heart attack and had, I had no real near-death experience or some great epiphany, I'll tell you, we'll take time. And this is sort of, you say, you're asking something that's important to me. So I'll go quickly into that. When I had the heart attack, and I lost a chunk of my heart. And so I ended up spending 11 days in the top cardiac hospital here on the East Coast. And I was only supposed to be there 7 days, but the top doc who had to sign me out decided he was going to go golfing for 4 days and he wasn't there to sign me out. So I had to stay there for 11 days instead of 7 days. But I was a bit knackered after this severe acute heart attack. And even though I wanted to be home for the kids and for the wife, I was sort of enjoying the rest. I've been working pretty hard for a lot of years up until then. Anyway, blow me down. I end up in the bloody hospital. And it's supposed to be about me having a heart attack and recovering. Oh, woe is me. And I sort of had a couple of days, bit of a cry up in the coffee room at 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, my life's changing. What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And, am I going to be the man that I used to be and all this sort of thing. And I sort of got that out of my system a bit. And anyway, after a couple of days, this fella lobs into the bed next to me, and we get to chatting, and he's in there to have his ticket checked out a bit of maintenance. Turns out that he was the then Queensland Health Minister of Australia. And pretty important dude, and we're just talking as men do. And he says, I got to do something about this. He said, we got people shooting up drugs on the street. We got people dying on the street. we've got constituents complaining that people are shooting up in the parks and they're finding needles in the kids' sandpits, and this whole intravenous drug thing, out in the public and on the street is becoming a real issue, And he said, and I'm the health minister, and they want me to do something about this, And he goes, I haven't got a clue what to do about this, maybe apart from throw them all in jail, And I've sort of gone, oh, that's a bit rough. I haven't really, committed any crime. It's sort of a bit of a victimless crime, apart from being victim of their own issues. And he goes, well, I don't know what to do. He says, I'm probably going to lose my job over this if I don't solve this problem. If I don't get this done, I'm not going to be health minister anymore. There's going to be no confidence in me. And they're going to probably, chuck me out and find someone who does know what to do. And I go, well, that's a bit rough, mate. Sorry to hear that. And then he says to me, and here I am, I'm in hospital, I'm still long-haired fucking larrikin, laying in bed in the hospital recovering. And he says to me, what would you do? How would you solve this problem? And I'm going, man, you're the health minister. I said, you don't know how to solve this problem, And he goes, no, I don't. He goes, what would you do? I said, why? Why are you asking me, man? And at first I thought he was having a go at me. I thought he was, having a dig at me, trying to make out like, you're a dumbass, and I bet you don't know what to do, and trying to have a little superiority type thing, But he seemed like a fairly decent sort of bloke. We had some good chats. And I said, well, you honestly want to know my opinion, what I would do about this? And he says, yes, I do. And I said, well, these people, and like as a teenager, I grew up around addicts. I lived with them. They were my friends. And I didn't do the junk myself. I liked to toot a bit of marijuana. That was it. I didn't go around sticking needles up my arms and stuff like that. And so I lived my childhood or my young teenage years looking after my friends and picking them up after they OD and taking them to hospital and cleaning them up at home and dragging them off the floor to their bed and making sure the rent was paid and making sure there was food in the fridge. And I was used to living with addicts, And so I said, these people, I said, you're not going to stop them from using. You're not really going to reform them unless they decide they want to, And I said that, and they're going to hit up wherever they want to hit up. If they want to do it in the street, in the park, or whatever, that's the only place they got to go. That's where they're going to do it. They're going to have their hit. It's as simple as that. And so I said, and if all you're worried about is, your middle class is, doesn't want to see these bums on the street hitting up in public. And I said, I get the syringes in children's playground. I said, I don't like that idea. That's bad stuff looking to happen. I don't like the idea of needles in kids' playgrounds. That's dastardly. I said, I myself, I'd love to see that stop. So I said, well, okay. I said, well, if it were me, if I was the health minister, what I would be doing was I would be providing clean injection rooms, publicly funded or government funded from taxpayers' money, a place where they can go, a health place that they can go to where they can get clean syringes where they can drop their old syringes off, into a bin and not leave them laying in the street in the kids' parks and whatnot. They can go down there and have counsellors on hand to make sure that, because we know that all the people who are taking these drugs, it's not about the drugs. It's about the dysfunctional families. It's about the violent families, and all the rest of it that's led them to this, or their misfortunes in their life, whatever it is, So these people, they need counselling. They need someone to talk to. A lot of them need help. A lot of them want help, probably can't get it. So let's provide clinics where they can inject cleanly in a clean environment. Provide them with sanitary towelettes so they can clean up a bit, not get diseases as they stick their needles in. They can throw their needles out. They can be supplied with clean needles instead of sharing each needles amongst themselves and getting diseases. I'd seen all of this as a teenager, what had happened to my friends, and provide them with support and with counselling, if they want it, and programs to get off it, methadone programs, so that, if they do want to get off it, there's an opportunity for them to have a crack at it,
How long ago was this? How many years ago?
This was in 1999.
And they didn't have anything like that in Australia at the time?
No, nothing. I don't think anyone will.
You know exactly what you're describing. They have in British Columbia here, like clean, safe injection sites. They got everything that you're just talking about. Yeah. So you're saying that you introduced that to Australia, or at least wow, that's phenomenal.
And he started listening. He's going, well, he says, I've got nothing. And so far, he says, what you're saying, it sounds like it's going to get a lot of people off the street, which is mainly what he wanted. Me, I was more interested in the people. I wanted to see them have a better quality of life and maybe get off the shit. And so him being health minister, he knew a lot more because I didn't know, I wasn't a parliamentarian, so I didn't know what ministers would accept, what would be able to be tabled, what would end up on the bench, things like that. So he knew a lot more about that. So as I talked about it, there's a lot of other things that I mentioned as well that I would have liked to seen happen. But as a minister, he said, no, I'd never be able to get that to fly, but, I'd be able to get this done, get that done. I'll put this across the table and see what the Prime Minister says about it, and see if we can get the funding for it from the federal government, So I'm supposed to be there recovering from a heart attack, and as usual, it ends up nothing about me. And we sat there for about the next 7 days on the end of our bloody hospital beds, working out how we're going to get clean injection rooms and get it tabled in the Parliament and get it passed and funded, And he went off, and I didn't know whether it was going to happen. I just gave my input. We sat there, and the Parliament, the parliamentary side of it was up to him. That was his game. And blow me down. Something like not 6 months later, I think it was down in Victoria, they were starting to open their first clean injection rooms. I never got a mention, clean injection rooms in Australia with Peter Graham's name on it. No one knows about this, but I mention this because I've been having biannual meetings with a fellow by the name of Julian, Irish fellow he is. Anyway, Julian is his name, and he's heading up the local sexual health clinic in Redcliffe, which is my hometown where I was born, just across the bay from me here on the island. It's about 70, 80 k's away, about a 3/4 of an hour drive. And so that's where I was born, over there. And I've been having meetings with him, and they work with HIV and hepatitis C patients and whatnot, and sexual health as well. And of course, a lot of the HIV and Hep C comes from the intravenous drug users. So it's all about that sort of thing as well. And I had a meeting with him just last week, but he's hinting to me anyway that he wants me to join his team of psychologists anyway there. So you were saying earlier something, tell us something.
Yeah.
That's sort of a bit of something that's going on with me. So so he's hinting at me, he's saying, look, he said, we're to the point now where the drugs for HIV and Hep C are pretty good and pretty effective very quickly. And so where people who come in with these diseases, we're able to treat them very quickly and help them out and get them through that. He said where we're really struggling is the counselling side and the psychiatry side of people dealing once again with all the reasons why they're using intravenous drugs and getting these diseases. And he said, we've only got 3 people. We've only got 3 psychologists on the staff. And I've been chatting with Julian for 2 years now, ever since he came over from Ireland. Julian Langton Lockton is his name. And he's sort of a big wheel. He comes from Brisbane and that, and he does a lot of conventions and stuff like that too, does a lot of speaking stuff, And but so he's starting to hint to me now anyway that I think he wants Kerry Ann on the team as well, because over the last couple of years we've got to know each other pretty well, and I think he's sort of feeling me out as to whether I'd be, because he knows I'm only a certified shadow work practitioner, and I'm certified in psychoanalysis and psychotherapy, but once again, that's only a certification. I haven't done like 4 years of university or anything like that. But he's getting to know me as a person, and I think he's starting to think that Kerry and I are going to be, people that he'd like to see on his staff. So.
Wow. This is phenomenal. This is phenomenal because, they've got, like I said, they've got the same thing in Canada here. They've got safe injection sites with counseling and everything that you're talking about. I mean, do you feel that you came up with that concept? Because I don't think they had it.
I'm not sure whether any other country had come up with the concept before that. Have to look into the records and see if maybe they were doing something in Amsterdam or anywhere.
But you were aware of it.
I wasn't aware of it. I didn't read about it in an article and say, oh well, this is what we should do here. It just come to me that it made damn good sense, and it was the only solution that I saw to the problem, because I didn't see people just suddenly deciding, I'm going to stop doing drugs or something like that, you know. And you know, like I say, after growing up with these people, I sort of knew the reason behind it, and you know, and the people who had these drug problems. So, you know, I sort of had a bit of an insight as to you were never going to stop them from taking the drugs, and even if you stop one, then there's just going to be another young person up and coming who's going to want to dabble in it, you know. So, you know, it was like, you know, you take one person out of the circle and there's just going to be, you know, the new next generation coming along. So, and that made perfectly good sense to me. I was about 33 years of age at that time, you know, so I wasn't exactly, you know, wet behind the ears. So
That was
but
1999.
that was in 1999. So it's possible. Maybe I'll do a search online sometime and see if maybe do a search of when the first clean injection room started on the
Yeah,
globe or
yeah.
something like.
That would be very interesting, but still, it was new to you, and you came up with it. Wow, that's phenomenal. Absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal.
well, it was good that it happened anyway. So, and yeah, so yeah, that was pretty important. That was a starting point, and it sort of led on a little bit from there. And last couple of years, I've been feeling this calling to return back to my hometown, the place that I was born. And I've sort of been feeling like it sort of felt like, oh, you know, it's time to go back home and live there. You know, maybe that's where I want to spend the rest of my days. And but I've been in this house here now for 30 years on the island. And all my children were born right here in the very bedroom where we still sleep. And I've got a very spiritual connection to this island and to the, you know, the sea life around it. You know, I've connected with the dugongs and the whales and not to mention my little bird and snake friends and all that. So, you know, I feel a real connection. So I've had this one part of me that's been saying, you know, maybe it's time to return back to your birthplace, but this other stronger part is saying to me, you know, like, this house for me here is like sacred ground. It's a brand new house when I moved into this house here, so no one's ever lived here except myself and my family, you know. This is our little patch. But now I'm sort of beginning to see with this Julian sort of egging me on to come back and help the needy in Redcliffe. Maybe that was the calling that I've been feeling. Maybe that's what was coming up, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So can I ask you something? Will you come back in a week Friday?
yeah, we'll do this in a fortnight's time, and
because we haven't even got into it yet. But anyway, on ending, Mr. Frank Oliver Beans has told me that you've had some experiences with warrior angels. Can you give us a real quick one to leave us a cliffhanger?
No. Save that. Just save that for another video because we're already at 2.5 hours now. I mean that needs its own section. Those guys are cool. They're
Okay.
I'll give you this much. Maybe next time we'll kick off with my 3 or 4 day sojourn with the God of Thunder when we went camping for a few days in the rain. So we might kick off
Wait.
with that this time.
Wow. Okay, well then, this has just blown my mind. And you know what really blew my mind is that, and it's that what you were talking about, like all the way through this, other than your clean injection site thing, it was kind of like I had exactly what you were talking about on my mind. Just when you were saying it, it was like, wow, this is kind of amazing. Okay, so wow, Peter, I'm just blown away. It's a privilege to have you on our show. I can't believe Mr. Beans and I just started this kind of just like on a whim and thought we'd have some fun with it, and it's actually turning into something that's really, really amazing. Everybody we've had on has had so many heartfelt experiences. There's so much information out there that we want to share with people. And so we're going to have you back in 2 weeks' time. And with that, I am Port Cunningham. This is my distinguished
Oliver Beans between the lines.
Beans,
Yeah.
means.
And we are very, very blessed to have had you on. I feel.
Well, you're welcome. I was glad to be on.
I wasn't talking about you.
Oh,
I'd like to replace you with Mr. Peter, actually, but but anyway, on that note,
you could do worse. That's for sure. That's just pretty good. He'd be a pretty
you know
good
what?
fight.
All joking aside, Mr. Beans always has something. I mean, we work good together. He knows so much about so many different things that we just work good together, and it just works out. So on that note, from Port Cunningham and Frank Oliver Beans, we want to thank our special guest today,
Peter John Graham.
Peter John Graham, for joining us today, and we're going to have him back in 2 weeks. So on that note, adios, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me,
Pork and Bean
guys.
Show.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. Look, it was good talking tonight, and I really do. I like having the opportunity to let people know that, things aren't as hard as they seem. We get led to believe that everything's so complicated and left feeling like we're lonely little blobs on this planet, and it's really not like that. Any chance I get to let people know that hey,
Yeah, you're just exactly like me. You feel like you want to share the love and the knowledge and just help people. That's exactly how I feel. Hi everybody, this is Port Cunningham. I just wanted to add a little note to this interview that I found out after the fact. Apparently, my girlfriend Sue, I guess she thought the interview was only going to be about an hour or two, or an hour, I guess, as she said it. And so she was kind of looking for me and wondering where I was all morning, because looking for me around maybe 10 or 11. And the interview, in fact, didn't end until noon. So anyway, she's looking for me and feeling neglected and stuff. And so what happened was, she went outside of her door to turn her chair over because there was a lot of water on it, because it had been raining all day, and it was there was a puddle of water on there. And even that part kind of makes me wonder, because why did she go and do that? Did she have to do it then? But she did. So she went and turned the chair over and drained it of the water, and she didn't see a trace of anything around there of pork specifically in any direction. And as I said, she was wondering where I was. And she went out just a few minutes later, and there were 2 pieces of pork place on her chair that she had just turned over and drained the water from. Amazing. And so she went in the house and did a little post, and had just finished it, and it was like a minute, two at the tops later, and she looked outside the window, and the pork had been moved from her chair. Or not, I'm sorry, not moved from her chair, but it had been moved on the chair to a completely different position. So absolutely amazing and funny. And, you know, I guess there's a couple different ways you could look at it. It had to do with her missing me, or the Sasquatch are big fans of the Pork and Bean Show. But anyway, yeah, this was a very interesting episode because it tied so many people into it. It kind of dovetailed into this one episode. Like, Christina Schwind told me that I was going to have a big piece fall in when I did my personal session with her, and that certainly happened last night. You know, Peter was sending me energy and love in anticipation of connecting today, and he was a big part of it. And then the connection with Peter and Kevin, and the messages with the Sasquatch, and you know, Sam Chandler and the heart thing, the heart opening up, dovetail with my experience, and of course Sue, like I said. And then we got old Mr. Beans kind of tying all the loose strings together. So pretty amazing stuff indeed. And you know, as fantastic as it sounds, the Sasquatch, they just never cease to amaze me. And this was a funny one. Their sense of humor was certainly showing today.